бы, чтобы сегодняшнее общение, сегодняшний такой тренинг, который будет, чтобы это было и вдохновением, и благословением для вас, для вашего служения, потому что, может быть, в будущем не будет такая вот особая нужда в переводе, как сегодня у нас есть. Может быть, в будущем, не нужно будет так сильно переводчик, как сегодня, потому что есть вот эти два лагеря, две группы людей, которые говорят в основном на русском и не сильно понимают английский, и в основном на английском и не сильно понимают русский язык. И вот мы можем быть вот этим каналом, который Бог использует, чтобы соединить вот эти две группы людей и переводить не просто какие-то документы, не просто юридические какие-то вопросы, помогать людям в переводе, но мы переводим Слово Божие, мы переводим ту истину, которая проповедуется, и это духовное дело. И хотелось бы, друзья, чтобы это общение сегодня было благословением для вас, вдохновением, чтобы продолжать служить и делать это от сердца. Я хотел бы также сегодня прочитать вот перед нашей молитвой общий текст, который записан в послании к Колоссянам в 3 главе 17 стиха. «И все, что вы делаете словом или делом, все делаете во имя Господа Иисуса Христа, благодаря через Него Бога и Отца». И все, что вы делаете словом или делом. Служение перевода – это служение и дело словом. Мы служим вот этим словом перевода в церквях, там, где вы находитесь, вы совершаете это служение. И далее, после, когда апостол Павел в этом послании уже обращается к мужьям, к детям, к отцам и к рабам, и вот он, суммируя все, он здесь в 3 главе 23 стихе, он говорит: «И все, что делаете, делайте от души, как для Господа, а не для человека». Важно, друзья, помнить, что перевод – это служение перед нашим Господом, служение в этом устроении внутри церкви. Особенно вот в это время, в том регионе, где мы живем. И мы имеем эту возможность послужить нашему Господу. И Бог не устроил церковь, где вот каждый член церкви, он просто самодостаточен. Ему никто не нужен, он может просто вот служить Богу, и он никому не нужен, и ему никто не нужен. Мы зависимы друг от друга. И вот Бог так устроил тело Христово, где мы можем послужить кому-то, и кто-то служит нам, и мы можем друг другу послужить. И вместе служим Господу. Это большое благословение. Вот в Петра 2 главе с 5 стиха Петр, говорит такие слова: «И сами, как живые камни, устрояйте из себя дом духовный, священство святое, чтобы переносить духовные жертвы, благодатные, благоприятные Богу Иисусом Христом». Вот мы можем послужить и вот эту жертву приносить перед Богом в устроении церкви. И Господь через каждого из нас, вот в нашем служении. И сегодня вот мы собрались, христианские переводчики здесь, которые участвуют в этом служении. Мы также участвуем в этой духовной работе, которую Господь совершает в сердцах людей. И если бы не переводчик, человек, который бы пришел в церковь, он просто или не до конца понял, или вообще не понял, что проповедуется. Мы являемся вот этим мостом коммуникации, тем каналом, через который передается Слово Божие. Это очень важная духовная работа. Вспоминая притчи Матфея в 25 главе, Иисус Христос говорит о талантах. Он говорит эту притчу, где одному, второму и третьему дал определенное количество талантов. Вот размышляя об этом, друзья, знание 2 языков – это тоже такое вот то, что Господь нам подарил. Если мы знаем 2 или 3 или 4 языка, это то, что мы также должны влаживать. И как мы влаживаем это, как мы инвестируем это в нашем служении, в нашей жизни, это будет тот плод, который мы сможем также принести перед нашим Богом, перед нашим Господином, когда Он придет. Пусть Господь благословит вас, дорогие друзья, вдохновит в этом служении. И тогда, когда вы находите себя вот в этой иногда изоляции, в маленькой sound booth, где-то там сзади переводите, помните, что вы служите Господу. И даже если вы сзади где-то никто вас не видит, Господь видит ваше служение, ваш труд, и Он ценен перед Господом, и это служение, которое Господь видит. и благословляет, и которое очень важно, особенно вот в наше время. Может быть, в будущем оно не так будет востребовано, но сейчас это хорошее время, друзья, послужить в этой духовной работе. Сегодня у нас это общение будет для того, чтобы получить это вдохновение, ободрение, но и также материал, который поможет каждому из нас. Я помню, вот в 2019 году, да, была последняя вот похожая встреча, нас немного было больше, насколько я помню, но это было хорошим таким вдохновением, и брат, с которым я вот рядом сидел, он в переводе, ну, насколько я помню, он сказал, что вот мой 20-летний опыт, это как сжат был вот в этот однодневный семинар. Это компактное такое масса информации, которая очень сильно помогла. Я сохранил тот пакет, который вот нам раздавали в том году, и мы его используем в нашей церкви для того, чтобы пройти тренинг тем, кто хочет вливаться вот в это служение. Это хорошая информация. И вот в этом году также подготовили, вот брат Вадим, Джоэн и Марк, они подготовили информацию, чтобы раздать каждому из вас, всем нам, чтобы это было в помощь в этом служении. Также хочу коротко сказать, что у нас будет обед в другом зале, он там сзади. Братья и сестры вот вам покажут, когда у нас будет уже обед. Также там сзади вот вы можете взять что-то перекусить, водички, кофе, чай. Туалеты, вот если вы выйдете налево, там по коридору, там туалеты. Говорят, что в нашей церкви это как мейз, такой трудно найти, сориентироваться. Так что подойдите, спросите, если вы не можете найти, куда вам нужно пойти. Я хотел бы вас призвать к молитве, дорогие друзья. Попросим нашего Господа, чтобы Господь благословил это общение, благословил Джоэн, благословил всех, кто будет участвовать сегодня, и каждого из нас. Давайте мы помолимся. Любящий Господь, мы благодарим Тебя за эту возможность сегодня собраться вместе. Благодарим Тебя за то, что многие из нас знают больше, чем один язык, Господь. Это Твоя милость над нами, это Твое благословение. И мы хотим использовать это для Царствия Твоего, хотим использовать это для служения, для назидания в церкви, Господь. И мы просим, чтобы Ты благословил, Господь, от начала до конца всю эту беседу, это общение, это тренинг, Господь. Благослови каждого из нас, Господь. Укрепи, Господи, нас в этом служении. Помоги, чтобы это служение, оно расширялось в наших церквях, Господь, чтобы это было помощью для тех, кто не понимает или русский, или английский, Господь. Помоги нам в этом. Мы нуждаемся, Господь, в Твоем благословении. Призываем Твое святое имя на это место, на это все служение, на это общение. Молимся во имя Иисуса Христа, наш любящий Бог. Аминь.
It is true. It's been part of my passion for the Christian interpreters for the last few years. But then there were other commitments, and some of you are part of the group of the Slavic interpreters there in Viber. And as we looked into that group, there were multiple requests there. Some of you are part, and maybe some of us would need to be added there. And these requests were given to us, or we would receive them, and it was said, well, when are we going to have this next meeting? And so I felt a little bit of a pressure there. And I thought, well, we ought to have something. And so I turned to Mark and Joanne. I'm going to introduce them in a moment. Some of you know them because they've been to at least one of our sessions and they led that session. But I could see from all of our registrations this time that about 2/3 of the people that have registered are new people. You've never been to this training. And it's been a while. It's been about, 5 years at least. And those of you who have been to the sessions, we've done, 2 or 3 of these, right? I think there were 3 fellowships. So some of you joined later on, and so our number has fluctuated. Some of the churches started these ministries and others are still thinking about starting them. By the way, if you are a ministry leader and you've marked yourself as such, would you mind staying just an hour longer so that we could just chat together as to how we're going to continue this? Because as we receive these requests, I'll tell you what, we need to look into the future, but we need to talk to the leaders as to what practically that ministry looks like as you do it with your interpreters and what kind of needs you're going to have. Now, if you didn't mark yourself as a leader, but on the other hand, you do have some practical suggestions as to how to lead this ministry, and you think those suggestions might be beneficial, or maybe you were just too humble to mark yourself as a ministry leader. If you don't mind staying that hour longer from approximately 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. so that we could talk together and figure things out, then that would be really helpful. Well, we're going to call the roll and just we won't have time to introduce everybody, but let's see who is here. And so we have a couple of people from Grace Slavic Baptist Church. Obviously, Pastor Vadim is here. Should be Yana and Pavel as well, right? Yes, is that Yana? All right, nice to have you. Thank you so much, and thanks for having us here. The Church of Transfiguration from Tacoma should have 2 people. Let's see, there should be Sergey and Vadim as well. But okay, nice. All right, so very good. Thank you. That's the Church of Transfiguration in Tacoma, close by here. We're going to travel to Portland. There should be a group from Word of Life. Let's have you guys. We could stand up. That would be great. And let's see how many. There's Word of Life, Portland, Oregon. Traveled all the way from Portland. Is it just 2? Because I'm listing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Not everybody could. 9 people have registered. Yes. Maybe there's more that are arriving, but it's nice to have you. And we realize Portland is a little ways, but we'll see. We actually have some people in the same vicinity there. So Slavic Grace Baptist Church in Vancouver should have at least 1 person. Ksenia is here? No? Okay. She did get registered. Maybe, did we have a chance to post that live stream on the interpreters? Maybe we could drop that link there so that people could also follow us. I think that would be a good idea to do that. Okay, Evangelical Baptist Church of Kent should have 3 people here. Do we have anybody? EBC Kent. Yay, there you go. There should also be Oksana who is coming. She said she's coming later, okay? And Salvation Slavic Baptist Church should have a group. Welcome. Salvationists, come on, stand up. There's Larissa there, and there is Marine over here. Is Jeff here? No? Not yet. Okay. Well, hopefully we'll see him as well. How about Yannick and is he here? Yannick? No? All right, we're going to move on. Choose Life should have 1 person. Choose Life Church. Peter, right? Welcome. Nice to have you. It's interesting. We're going to have people from not just our fellowship, but also some of the other churches, which is great. Which is, you've heard about this event and you came. That's outstanding. A lot of the Gospel Church, all the way in Spokane. 2 people? There they are. And it's interesting that so there's the admin and there's the leader. Do you guys do all the interpretation ministry, or do you have interpreters with you?
We have interpreters.
But
I kind of oversee the department, and I interpret whenever there's nobody to interpret.
Okay, got you. All right. So you came here on a reconnaissance mission, right? To find things out. It's all the way from Spokane. So it's nice to have you. You could stay for the leaders meeting. That would be great. All right, we're going to move on. So we should have a couple of people from Bellingham, and that is Slavic Baptist Church in Bellingham. Yay, welcome. All right, and in Salem, First Slavic Baptist Church should be Brother Ivan. Yay, welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much. And he's the ministry leader there. Should have Veronica, also from Salem, from Trinity. Is she around? No, she registered, but probably just couldn't make it. Salem is also a little ways. City on the Hill Church, Brother Mark. Brother Michael, sorry, Brother Mikhail. Are you here? No, it would be nice to have him. He actually led one of our seminars. He actually helped us out on one of the seminars there. Maybe he'll just come later. New Life Bible Church, Salem, Brother Eugene. There he is. Welcome. Nice to have you. And Golgotha Church, Brother Vadim from Tacoma. There he is. And those of you who have just arrived, would you mind introducing yourselves as well?
Portland, West.
There you go. That's Portland.
From Vancouver, Blagodać.
Very well. We were expecting. We were like, "Where are you?" There should be a large group from Portland, but we're not seeing all of them. So, please grab one of the manuals there in the back, and if you didn't do that yet, and Mark and Joanne, let me talk about them. Some of you know them already. I've known them since we just chatted with Joanne. I was about, 15 or so. I was in high school, and they started in my hometown, which is Zaporizhia, Ukraine. They started Zaporizhia Bible College, which now is Zaporizhia Bible Seminary, has grown into a larger school now. That was the school started in 1994, if I remember correctly. And so I became a student there, and I was there from 1996 to 1998, graduated that, went to Moody. Well, Mark and Joanne, they obviously met in the United States, and so 1993 was the year that they met, and they've had careers before that. You know, Mark went through Multnomah Bible College. He was also working for IBM, and he had some of the teaching ministry as well, and so Joanne as well. Joanne taught at public schools. Now she is from Chicago, while Mark grew up in the Northwest. Is that correct? Or California, was it?
In Seattle.
Seattle. There you go. Yeah, and so then the Lord called them to ministry in Ukraine through first, it was through Greater Europe Mission, but then it was also through Eastern European Mission that the Zaporizhia Bible College was supported by. This is still a ministry that's ongoing, even with the war that's out there. The Zaporizhia is about 40 kilometers from the front lines, and so Zaporizhia gets hit hard. This is a big pain in our hearts, and they can tell you more about what's going on as far as the operation of the college is concerned. But they've been, dedicated to this ministry for a very long time. And then Mark, he led the board also, and he was the board member. It still continues to be a part of the ministry, receiving the news and everything from those lands there, from Zaporizhia. And Joanne also served as a missionary even before that to Sweden, correct? And there could be parts of their biography that I just have no clue about. They can just fill you in because it's so rich. They've been to all kinds of places, but they've ministered, especially Joanne, to the interpreters. Whenever they would go, they would need interpreters, and so they would train the interpreters. And so I asked them, would you mind also helping us in this situation? This is a little different, of course, because then our situation is in the churches when we speak Russian, Ukrainian, Romanian, whatever language we use, and then we would need interpreters to translate it for the visitors that would come. And so that's the situation that is mostly used. Back in Ukraine, it was most of the time, it was the speaker who is from the United States or Canada, and they would speak English, and the translation would be an onstage translation that was needed. We do that from time to time, but that's becoming rare. Is that correct in your churches as well? Is that your experience? Yeah, but we can share about that as well. But there's still similarities, and so we try to tailor this to what we're doing in our churches, and hopefully we'll hear more as well about how to do that. Well, one thing I want to leave you with before Joanne comes here. I went to Moody, and we had these chapels as well, just in any other school. And one of the songs we sang there, I recalled, had these words in it. And these words were about any kind of ministry, but especially I thought about it not only in terms of the preaching ministry, but in terms of the interpretation ministry, because I was involved as an interpreter, and then I became a preacher, became a pastor, and so forth. So there is this chorus that we sang: channels only, blessed Master, but with all thy wondrous power flowing through us, thou canst use us every day and every hour. We're just channels. I remember as I sang that there at Moody, as I went to school, I recalled my ministry at Zaporizhia Bible College and Joanne's classes, because she used to teach these sessions even back then, that she would tell us, listen, you are only a channel as an interpreter. Don't add anything or subtract anything. Reminds probably you of a verse in Revelation, right? Whoever adds to the words of this prophecy or whoever subtracts will have different kinds of not blessings, but the otherwise, curses and pestilences that would come upon them. So it's a very responsible ministry. You are only a channel, but as we are channels of God's gifts and God's grace to the other people, we're transmitting the word of God. We're not adding to it. We're not subtracting to it. God is using us to bless other people. Well, may this session also be of a blessing to you, Joanne Mackey.
Special welcome to our friends from Canada. This might be a little bit confusing the way we will conduct things today, but maybe we will meet someday in Canada. Who knows what could happen. I told Pavel that I'm a very hard person to follow because I go all over. My philosophy is by doing. Think of how it was if you can ride a bicycle. You didn't ride a bicycle, you didn't learn how sitting on your mother's knee, listening to her say, you put your hands on the handlebars and your feet on the pedals. No, you had to get to a bicycle, sit on it, and learn to balance yourself. Same with a car. You have to get into the car in order to learn to drive it. There are rules of the road that you can learn sitting at home in front of the computer on the sofa, but you have to drive the car to learn to drive. And the same with interpreting. We can have a seminar like this. I can present a manual, which I'm doing, but you're not going to learn to interpret until you actually interpret. And the first few times are the hardest, so just persevere. We will learn what to do. So I do want to thank Pastor Vadim Burlak and this church for opening your facilities to us. Thank you very much for the food, the goodies, the lunch that you will provide. We appreciate that very much. I would like to, excuse the extra noise, please. I didn't mean for that to happen. That's okay. Okay, I would like to look at the manual. If you would turn, please, to page 2 of the manual. That's right after the title page. Page 2, and to emphasize what Pastor Vadim Hetman said, look at the third paragraph where the bold print is. As a Christian interpreter, you have a responsibility to convey a message from the heart of God that He placed into the heart of a speaker through your own heart and into the hearts of listeners. You have a very unique ability, a unique skill that has been given to you by the Lord to interpret, and you are taking a message from the Lord that He gave to a speaker. It has to go through your heart into the hearts of your listeners. You are a pipe. You are a channel. You don't change anything. You don't add or subtract. You are a channel into the hearts of listeners. And then I would like to have you notice down at the bottom the paragraph that says we express much gratitude to Pastor Vadim Burlak for opening your facilities today. I'm not going to read everything that's in the manual. You can do that at home. And to our friends in Canada, we could send this to you electronically if you would like. But I will highlight certain things from the manual. If you would turn now to page 4, general terminology for interpreters. I will be using some of these terms. I'm not going to go over them right now. I would like to point out that there is a technical difference between interpreting and translating. Most Americans, anyway, blend the two terms. They use one term when they mean the other. I try to be specific because this is part of my ministry. Interpreting is verbal. It is oral. It is spoken. Translation is written. It is a document that you read and that you write. So we will be talking about interpreters. You are not a translator. You are an interpreter today, and we are talking about interpreting. Okay, page 5, traits of a good interpreter. I want to point out on the top part, traits of a good interpreter. Look at the second one, an excellent vocabulary in one or more languages. And we will talk about expanding your vocabulary in whichever language you are working in, be it Russian or English or Spanish or Chinese or whatever it happens to be. We will talk later today about how to expand your vocabulary. Then the fourth point, excellent listening skills. The two things that an interpreter needs most are listening skills and memory, and a good vocabulary. So we will work on how to improve that. Down at the bottom, or actually in the middle, interpreter cans and cannots. As an interpreter, you can control certain things, or you can improve certain things that involve yourself. You can control or you can improve your concentration, your memory, your ability to listen. You can improve, you can expand your knowledge of a subject. You can expand your biblical vocabulary, your theological vocabulary. Pastor Vadim talked about the interpreters that we had at Zaporizhia Bible Seminary and the training sessions that we had for them. They knew English very, very well. They were very good in English. They were university graduates. They had majored in English. That was their field. So they knew English. But they did not have a biblical or a theological vocabulary because that's not taught at universities. So we concentrated at the seminary on building their biblical and theological vocabulary. And I will show you later today some tips on how you can do that. Kind of 2/3 of the way down the page, it says interpreters cannot control. There are lots of things as an interpreter that will be difficult for you, but you cannot control them. For just a moment, if you would look at the very, in your manual, the back pocket here, if you would look at the back pocket, there's a loose leaf, a loose paper. A leaf is a page. And at the end of today, I'm going to ask you what you liked about today, what you did not like about today, and what you would like to have been different. So during the day, if there's something that you don't like, write it down. If there's something that you do like, write it down. And if there's something you think, oh, I wish they had done it differently, write that down. We will give you time at the end of the day to fill this out, but you could be thinking about it during the day. Also, in the front of your manual is a very important paper that is folded. These are Bible verses that are numbered differently in the Russian and the English Bibles. So you will see a list of the English verse numbers and the Russian verse numbers. Most of these differences are in the book of Psalms, but Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon, Isaiah, Daniel, Jonah, Acts, Romans, and Ephesians, they all have different verse numberings. So we made this paper small like this into your Bible. Obviously not your cell phone Bible, but a real Bible, one that you hold in your hand. You can slip it in there. It is desirable, actually, that in your real Bible that you hold in your hand, that you mark the discrepancies, that you differences, so that whether you're in your Russian Bible, you can see right away what the English verse is, or vice versa. So that should be a very valuable tool for you. Okay, moving back. Page 7 in the manual, kinds of interpreting. There's conversational interpreting, which we will not do today, but that involves simply an interpreter and 2 or more people who have different languages, and you interpret from one language to the other and from the other language to the first language, back and forth. That's conversational, very informal. The second kind of interpreting that is listed there is confidential. This is at a counseling session. It could be medical, it could be educational, financial, it could be a personal problem that someone has, and we want interpreters to be confidential people. You do not tell other people what the nature of that conversation was. You are very quiet about it. If somebody asks you, well, what did they really say? You say, go and ask them. I cannot tell you. There's consecutive interpreting, which we will do very, very soon, and then simultaneous interpreting, which we will do this afternoon. If you would look now at, no, let's not look there yet. Let's look at page 8 and consecutive interpreting. This is what we're going to do. What we're going to do is divide into several small groups. You're going to sit in a little circle with 4 or 5 other people. I'm going to give you some pictures that you can select from. I'll give you a picture, and one of you will look at the picture, show it to your group, and tell what's happening in that picture in English. Talk in English. And you will have an interpreter who interprets into Russian for the group. As you were interpreting, not the speaker, but as you were interpreting, your listeners, being good English and Russian speakers, your listeners were probably thinking, oh, you know, I could have said that differently. I could have said that in a different way. Or as the interpreter, you maybe thought, I didn't say that quite right. I didn't know that vocabulary word. I wasn't sure of how to phrase that. Look at the very bottom point on page 11. Did you sense confidence in yourself? As an interpreter, did you sense confidence in yourself? If you did not, your listeners didn't either. And what I have discovered over the years is that interpreters do very, very well at evaluating themselves. They don't need an audience to say, you messed up there. You didn't know that vocabulary word. There was too much lag time. You didn't speak clearly enough. Interpreters instinctively know if they did good or not. So think about your own interpretation right now. If you were confident of it, that's great. That's very good. Let me give you a little bit of information about myself and how I came into doing this. Pastor Vadim mentioned that I lived in Sweden. I was there for 18 years. My first 3 years, 2.5 years in Sweden were involved in learning the Swedish language full time. So I had what I think is a good grasp of the Swedish language. And thanks to that, I was teaching at a Bible school there. Thanks to that grasp of the Swedish language, I was able to do some interpreting and some translation as well. The interpreting I did during church services simultaneously, something like what we're going to be doing this afternoon here, something like what all of you are doing in your various churches. That is where I experienced interpreting myself. After 18 years in Sweden, Dr. Mackey and I re-met. We had known each other for a long time, 19 years, I don't know. We got married and we moved to the country of Ukraine. We moved to Ukraine in 1994, which was very shortly after Ukraine had become independent. And we did not know how long that independence was going to last. So we spent one summer in language school, Russian to English, and I learned the alphabet, that is, I can identify the Cyrillic alphabet letters. We really didn't learn Russian well at all. My husband Mark understands it much better than what I do. I don't think I am linguistically gifted. After all, I was in language school for 2.5 years to learn Swedish, full-time language school. But when the seminary started, we had a staff of, 15 or 20 interpreters, because we had speakers from North America and from Western Europe who were teaching courses in English, and they needed interpreters. What our interpreters needed was a biblical and theological vocabulary. I feel, based on my experiences in Sweden, I feel as though I had some understanding of what they were going through. Because believe me, when I went to language school in Sweden, they didn't give me a biblical or a theological vocabulary. I did not learn redemption or atonement or resurrection in Swedish language school. And you don't learn that at a university English program either. There are specialized vocabularies: medical, law, engineering, Bible and theology. So I tried to help our interpreters build their vocabulary, expand their memory, improve their listening skills, because that's what I had needed in Sweden when I was working in that language. So that's a little bit of my background with interpreting and learning a second language. Let's look at the top now of this page 11 in evaluating an interpretation. There's the content of an interpretation, and there is your own delivery. Now, we started by looking at the very bottom point. Did you sense confidence in yourself? If you did, that's wonderful. If you didn't, your listeners knew it. Not that they're going to criticize you. Hopefully they want to help you, but they sensed what you sense in yourself. Okay, the content up at the top. Consider if there were lapses or gaps in your interpretation. Were the sentences complete? Were the ideas complete? But did you add anything that the speaker did not say? Or did you take away something that the speaker said but you did not say? Did you distort anything? And what was the reason for that? Why did you distort, or why did you add? Why did you take away? And there could be some legitimate reasons. One reason could be the speaker speaks in one language. You think that your listeners are not going to understand that phrase very well. And I'll give you an example. I don't know how many of you will even understand this example. We had a speaker, a pastor from North America. He was speaking to a congregation at a church service. And he said he was so happy when he was coach of a team, a sports team also. He was so happy when all his team members raised their hands. And so the interpreter interpreted, all the team members raised their hands and the speaker was happy. And he was thrilled about this. The audience, the congregation, was sitting just like you're sitting right now. What does it mean to raise your hand?
Ask a question.
I'm sorry.
Ask a question.
That's what it would be in school. Yes, you're correct. That's what it would be in school. In the United States, praise to what happened when you raise hands in singing, okay. All the team members raised their hand.
Surrender.
I'm sorry?
Surrender. You raise your hand, surrender.
Was there any questions before?
No, the speaker was just relaying an incident. What he meant was a very American phenomenon that goes on in evangelical churches in the United States. When someone repents in the United States, the speaker will be in front of the congregation and he will say, if anyone wants to receive Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, raise your hand. And that person is repenting. But the speaker didn't know that the congregation doesn't do it that way in Ukraine. The interpreter didn't know that the speaker was referring to something that the interpreter was totally ignorant of. And the congregation certainly didn't understand why the speaker was happy when everybody raised their hand. The speaker was happy because all of his team members repented and became real born-again Christians. That was wonderful. Did you want to say something, or were you just yawning?
Yeah, so when the speakers, what the speaker said? He said, "Who would like to accept Jesus, raise your hands."
That's what a speaker would say in an evangelical church here in America.
What did he say in the Ukraine?
The speaker was giving an example of why he was happy about something. I don't remember the rest of his message. He just said, "I was so happy when all my team members raised their hands." So he was coaching a team. I don't know what game it was, but he was coaching a team. All of his team members became true believers. They repented. But nobody understood that. The interpreter didn't understand, the congregation didn't understand, and he didn't understand why the congregation wasn't happy about it. So there are times when, as the interpreter, you don't know what the speaker means. You need to stop and you need to say, "Excuse me, what is it you mean? Why were you happy about that? What does it mean to raise your hand? Can you say that another way?" The interpreter needs to stop and ask for clarification, and that is perfectly all right to do in consecutive interpreting. So in this case, the point is, did you add anything? If the interpreter had known what the speaker meant, the interpreter would have clarified for the congregation. The speaker was happy because all his team members repented. So the interpreter is not giving the same words, but the interpreter is explaining to the congregation or to the audience what the speaker really means. So there are legitimate times when you can add or explain or take away something to help the listeners understand. Let's skip down to, under the content, how well did you describe terms that you did not know in your target language? That is, were you resourceful and quick in your descriptions? Sometimes you understand the word that the speaker says, but you don't know what that word is in the language of the listeners. So you need an expanded vocabulary, you need synonyms, you need similar words, you need simply to expand your vocabulary. And if that happens, it just means, good, you have an opportunity to learn something. This isn't bad. None of these things are bad. They are opportunities to learn. The bottom one under content, were there words, phrases, idioms, or other vocabulary that you need to look up later to learn? And I'll give you a hint later on today about something you can do to remember those words and phrases that you need to review. Okay, the bottom part on page 11, your own delivery. Did you enunciate properly and use proper intonation? That is, if the speaker was very serious about something, your voice should also be serious when you speak to the listeners. If your speaker was happy about something, your voice needs to be happy too. Your intonation needs to reflect the speaker's intonation. And the same thing on gestures. Let's say that the speaker says it was really big. What does the interpreter do? Our suggestion is that the interpreter, if the interpreter goes, it was really big, it would look kind of funny. It would look almost as though you're mocking the speaker. Do 1/3. The speaker says, it was really big, and the interpreter can say, it was really big. That way the audience knows what the speaker was saying, but you're not mocking the speaker. You're not making fun of the speaker's big gesture. About 1/3 of whatever the gesture is that the speaker used. In interpreting, and this is especially true for simultaneous interpretation, which we will do this afternoon. Do not strain your voice. Do not whisper. When you whisper, you are straining your voice. But if you speak softly, you are not straining your vocal cords. So speak softly if it's necessary. Do not strain your voice, or pretty soon you won't have a voice. Any questions about evaluating an interpretation? Okay, let's look at pages 12 and 13. Page 12 has a list of the terminology in a sanctuary. A sanctuary is the worship room where we go on Sunday mornings. A sanctuary can also be for animals. There are bird sanctuaries. There are sanctuaries on islands where people are not allowed so that the birds and the native animals can live their lives and can flourish. So a sanctuary is a special, unique place that should not be disturbed. Look now at page 13, which I see is right across. And page 13 has a picture of a sanctuary. This was drawn by a young woman in Ukraine, so it looks more like a Ukrainian sanctuary probably than it looks like one here in the United States. I don't know if it looks like your church or not. The vocabulary words are in the middle, in the aisle of the sanctuary. So I'm going to say the word and just repeat after me in English. I'll start with number 1. Aisle. Notice there is a silent S in the word aisle. It's not Isley, it's aisle. We have an aisle here. This is the aisle. Please repeat after me. Communion table. Communion table. Banner. And see if you can find these on the picture as we say them. The banner is over on the right. It's a Bible verse from Psalms, I think, or no, from Romans. Repeat after me, please. Baptistry. Baptistry. Bible verse. Bible verse. Cross. Cross. Choir. Choir. Choir director. Choir director. Choir loft. Choir loft. Congregation. Congregation. Church member. Church member. Elements for the Lord's Supper. Elements for the Lord's Supper. And in the church that I go to, the pastor says emblems. He doesn't call them elements. He calls them emblems for the Lord's Supper. Repeat, emblems for the Lord's Supper. And that is the bread and the wine. Hymn book. Hymn book. Songbook. Songbook. How many churches still use a hymn book or a songbook? Okay, not many. It's all on the wall now. Repeat after me, please. Loudspeaker. Loudspeaker. Microphone. Microphone. Mural. Mural. Offering basket. Offering basket. Offering plate. Offering plate. Offering bag. Offering bag. Pastor. Pastor. Pews. Pews. Piano. Piano. Pulpit. Pulpit. Screen. Screen. How many of you use guitars in your churches? Does anyone use drums in your churches? Okay, maybe we should add something to those pictures. Close your manuals for this next segment now. We're going to continue with a little pronunciation exercise. If any of you have your Bible with you, I saw some over here. You can open to the table of contents where it gives a list of all the books of the Bible. It has been pointed out to me that sometimes it's very hard to pronounce the names of books of the Bible, especially the Old Testament prophets. So I'm going to say the names of the books of the Bible in English, and you're going to repeat in English. So you can look at your Bible if you want, especially if that helps you with pronunciation. Make little notations if it's necessary. Otherwise, just listen and repeat. So listen. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther, Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon. Sometimes that's called Song of Songs. Song of Songs. Now comes the fun part. Now we have the prophets. So listen carefully. Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, Daniel, Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, sometimes also called Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, Malachi. Let's do the Old Testament prophets one more time, because I think this is the hardest part for people, starting with Isaiah. Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, Daniel, Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, Malachi. Now we continue with the New Testament. This is probably easy. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, Romans, 1st and 2nd Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, 1st and 2nd Timothy, Titus, Philemon, Hebrews, James, 1st and 2nd Peter, 1st, 2nd, 3rd John, Jude, Revelation. How to show. Do you have any questions about anything that we have brought up thus far this morning? Yes?
What is mural?
What is a mural?
We couldn't find it, it's number 16 on the picture.
It is there. Mine is. Oh, you're right. The top part didn't get printed on yours. I'm sorry about that. It was very hard to print these, actually. There's a mural up here, and in the original, it's a picture of Mary and Joseph with the baby Jesus. A mural is a picture.
It's a picture in that church?
Yes.
Is it window, like a glass window?
That's called a stained glass window. A mural would be a painting on the wall.
Direct painting.
Yes, yeah, often. So I'm sorry that didn't get on here. Number 3, the Bible verse here where it says Romans 3:23, I guess it is. That's number 3, which is a banner. A banner. Any other questions?
Yeah, so about the prophets, so I was in Mexico, right, and talking about Elijah with one of my Mexican friends there, and he's like, it's actually Elisha for us, and Elijah is Elisha for us. And
that really makes it confusing. Yeah, that makes it confusing. There was Elijah, and he was followed by Elisha.
Yes.
They're 2 different men.
Right, but they are like
they
the
reverse
other way,
it?
like the way they're spelled or said, because their letters are a little different.
Yeah. That always makes things confusing. It's like in some countries, this means no, and this means yes. And you go to that country. My husband was in whatever country that is one time. Is it Hungary? And he needed a taxi cab ride. So he went to the driver of a cab and he asked, can you take me someplace? And the driver said, which meant yes. So Mark walked away. Okay, any other questions? Yes.
Coming back to mural, is it like in a church context or?
It can be in an art museum. It can be in a large home. I don't have one in my apartment, but in a large place. So I was just looking here. I don't see a mural in this room, but
Is this still used?
Yes, outside walls of commercial buildings, they'll have paintings on the wall, that's a mural.
yeah, if it's not graffiti, then it's a mural. Yeah.
In modern days, graffiti is a mural now.
Okay.
Google говорит фреска. Да, фреска. Нет, не портрет. Портрет это...
Большой рамки.
Нет, без рамок, на стене просто. Портрет это больше как картина. It is not a separate painting, right? It's a painting on the wall.
Yes. Yeah.
Это как у нас в церкви детском. Это mural.
It's a funny word to say. That's okay. That's all right. It is a funny word.
Funnier to understand.
Funnier to understand.
Google translates it into like church picture, fresca. It's different
Fresca,
from any
uh-huh.
picture.
Well, not necessarily correct. Google 50/50 is
Американском, может, в русском переводе скажет, что здесь фреска на стене. В церковном контексте.
Поэтому ты говоришь, как бы это картина. Потому что фреска уже, я говорю,
Okay, if you would please turn in your manuals to page 14. Expanding vocabulary and improving memory. I'm going to go through all of these with you. Number one, every interpreter should have a little notebook that he or she carries around with him all the time. And in this little notebook, you write words and phrases and idioms and pronunciations and anything that is new to you. We had a young man who was interpreting for us in Zaporizhia some years ago. He had a little notebook all the time. He filled up many such notebooks. And what he would do is he would write things down during the day that he didn't know. And then at the end of the day, he was very diligent. He would go over those words or phrases and he would learn them. Sometimes he saw the same word time after time after time. And that meant that's an important word because it's used a lot, so he better learn it. He turned out to be one of the best interpreters from Russian into English that we ever had. So I urge you to get a little notebook like this and carry it in your pocket, in your bag, in your backpack, wherever, but have it out all the time and be ready to write down words and phrases that you don't know. And then at the end of the day, or when you have time, look up those words, find the definitions. If it's sometimes a noun will have an adjective or an adverb or even a verb that is like it. So go ahead and learn all the variations, all the different parts of speech of that particular word, and you will expand your vocabulary. Number two, build general vocabulary in both languages. For example, name all the items in your house, including utensils and tools in the kitchen, in the garage, in your workplace, in your school. Learn terms for the items here at your local church, and use a picture dictionary. So let's start. What is this thing called that I'm standing on? Some people will call it a stage. I think of a stage as being something in the entertainment world. At church, I like to call this a platform. And that's a personal thing. At our church, our local church in Burien, they call it a stage. I don't like it. I've never told them that. I'm telling you. I don't know why. Anyway, for me, this is a platform. What is a podium? This is what I'm standing on is not the podium. If it were more permanent, it would be a podium. This actually is a music stand that we're using right here. A podium is more permanent, often made of wood or glass. Yeah, that's what a podium is. Yeah, right. What is, look at this gold thing going all the way around. What is this thing called? Trim. And what holds it onto the platform? What's the difference between a nail and a screw?
Nail driven by the hammer, screws driven by the drill.
And if you don't have a drill, you have to be the drill yourself. Okay? What is this? And what is this? The mantle. What is this? I realize you can't see what it is. It's a vent. Yeah, that's all right. I'm not going to stay there for long. Sorry, we'll go to Canada and we'll do the same exercise someday. What is this white thing going? Christmas light. What are the lights on? Bulbs. Good. A string.
Electrical strip.
Electrical strip. Good. What is this? The whole thing going across. We have several. Yes, beams going across, a structural beam. Very good. Go through your house and identify every single item and the minute parts of items, and do it in both languages, both Russian and English. That will improve, that will expand your vocabulary. Number 3, find and visit websites that spur you on to improve. I used to give people a list of websites, but they change all the time and there are so many new ones. So just go to the web and look up Learn English. Look up English pronunciation. Look up English vocabulary words. You will find dozens and dozens of websites that can help you build your vocabulary and expand it. Also, go to the web and look for Bible sites. Look up the word redemption. Look up the word Christmas. Look up the word atonement. And you will find all kinds of definitions and phrases that you need in both languages to improve your vocabulary. Number 4, oh boy, this is a difficult one. Number 4, when you are listening to television or to radio or to a podcast, silently in your mind, interpret into the other language what that speaker is saying. Just do it silently and see if you can keep up. It'll be very hard to keep up with the speaker unless the speaker is going very, very slowly. But try to be interpreting and thinking in 2 languages as much as you can and try to keep up the pace. Number 5 is the most difficult of these suggestions. And if anyone does it, please email me and I will give you a congratulations. Number 5, listen to a message, a Bible message, a sermon, or a speech in your second language, not your primary language, but in your second language. and write it out. Write out what the speaker says in the other language. This is going to take a lot of time. It's going to require a lot of playback. You're going to have to listen again and again, over and over. And you will meet so many new words and so many new phrases that will help you expand your vocabulary. Note word order, note grammar, note sentence structure as you write out the message. There are very few people that will do this because it is so challenging and so difficult. But if you do it, you will expand your vocabulary tremendously. So you're listening to a message in the language that you are writing it out. Write it out in the same language. Number 6, listen to the Bible read orally. Note intonation, word order, vocabulary. Interpret silently what is being said and try to keep up the pace as the Bible is read aloud. Number 7, here's a really nice one. Read good literature in your own language. Listen to tapes, messages, speeches in your second language or your target language. And note and record new words and phrases in your little notebook. And then review it at the end of the day. Number 8, this one is really helpful. Read your English and Russian Bibles together. Read them at the same time. And you'll discover phrases and terminology and words that you can use when you're interpreting. This is not easy. None of this is easy. But you have a Russian Bible, you have an English Bible. So read a verse here, read a verse here. And know, oh, is that how you interpret that? Oh, is that what that means? Yes.
The Russian Bible is easier because it's mainly one translation.
Yeah, oh.
So going back to English.
There are many.
So what would be your suggestion to start with?
King
James is, New King James is better, but there's NIV, SAE, there's a lot of good ones. But
New American Standard.
Yeah, the question is, what do we do? Which English translation should we use? New American Standard is word for word. So that would probably, I don't know for sure, but it would probably be closer to the Russian. The New International Version is the idea. The idea is translated. So
nobody speaks this way. So now we know what's NIV and the other one. So yeah, NASV. So it's kind of would like to have that. That will help a lot.
Yeah. New American Standard is word for word translation. And NIV is, yeah,
King James?
That is King James in modern English.
Which one is better to use for the sermon?
That's right.
It depends on the speaker. Whatever the speaker's using.
You mean if you are the speaker? If you are the pastor, the speaker.
Some of the speakers, they are using King James, another one will use New King James, another one will use NIV. Yeah.
Yes,
and which translation is better to use at the service?
Oh, I see what you mean. Which translation should you use at the worship service?
Which is better?
I would say New American Standard. That's what I would say. There's also the English Common version that a lot of people are using now. And I don't know how that, is it English Standard? ESV. Yeah. Yeah, do you like that, English Standard?
I like it.
Okay.
It's required in the schools, like seminaries.
Okay, but seminaries, different seminaries do different things. Yeah.
Conservative.
Yeah, okay, number 9, and then we're going to take a break and have lunch. Number 9, stretch your memory. So get a partner. Have your partner read a phrase to you, and then repeat that phrase exactly as it is. Then have your partner read a longer phrase, and repeat that longer phrase exactly as it is. And then a longer phrase, and repeat longer. And stretch your memory until you could say, until you could remember quite a bit. That will help you when you have a speaker who goes on and on, or simultaneous interpretation, and you have no opportunity to check on what's going on. Okay, other questions? Yes.
May I please add to number 3? There is a very good website and YouTube channel, Bible Project.
Bible Project. Oh,
It
yes.
has very good themes. You can listen to the same stuff in English and in Russian.
Yes.
A few times.
Yes.
And it's all the vocabulary.
The Bible Project is splendid. It's excellent. It started Tim Mackey, not the same. No, it's not spelled the same. He's not a relative, unfortunately. We know his father-in-law, but we do not know him. But Tim Mackey is a graduate of Multnomah and teaches in Portland and is head of the Bible Project along with John Collins. And it's excellent in many different languages. Yeah. Other comments or questions?
What would be your definition and an idea, or you mentioned linguistically gifted?
That means that you learn languages quickly. You have an ear for language, and you can learn a language very quickly. Linguistically gifted people are often very good in music and very good in math as well. That goes together in our brains.
So what would be a suggestion for people that
Are
may
not?
have those skills, but they really have a passion about the...
Look at page 14 and do all the things on page 14. You have to study harder.
They say in music that if you don't have
An ear for
an
music?
ear, but I personally believe that's not true. It can be taught if you work hard with the person who teaches you, work with you, and yourself. But here's maybe, is that the same thing?
Sure, because I learned Swedish not easily, but I studied hard and learned Swedish. I am not linguistically gifted. I'm not good in music, and I'm not good in math at all. That's not where God gifted or placed his hand upon my brain, but I worked hard. Was there a question back here? Yes.
Would you say native English speakers have an easy time understanding New King James, or is that not easy for them either?
Today's young people do not understand Old King James because it's a language that was spoken 400 years ago. So today's young people are really not acquainted with King James English. New King James is okay. But Old King James is not easy even for an English speaker, perhaps an older person, but not a young person, not someone your age, young as you are.